I'm gonna call David real quick and see if he can help me get this little laptop set up.
I was watching you say that.
Were you watching me say that?
Yeah.
I muted myself. You can't hear me now, can you?
I can hear you from this.
Oh, okay.
I was watching you from this camera.
Oh, Lord, that's scary. All right, so I got a code here.
So what are you trying to do?
I was trying to log in on this little laptop.
Just trying to actually log in?
Yeah.
Use the username. You tried Avis Harris, right? For your
So
username?
let me do it and see what it says. Hey guys, the temporary firewall with the network backbone service was not started.
Okay. Try username stat. Password PCSC.
Lowercase. estimated inbound blower tracks.
Do this. In front of staff, put dot, and then a backslash.
Then staff.
Yeah, then staff. Take the network cable, on this computer, plug it in the laptop cord. You know, it looks like the phone jack.
We can do this later. I've got that little phone, that little camera thing plugged into mine, so I'll do this for today.
Okay.
And then after the meeting, I may copy it and go up there and let's walk through it.
I can put camera work on your computer.
Yeah, I just need it in the future.
Yeah.
And my sound until that gets started. Can you still hear me from yours? From Dr. Schmitz?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, well, after the meeting, I'll call you back so I can get this set up so I can use it at home.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, okay, bye.
Miss Avis,
Yes, ma'am.
you might want to mute your microphone as well.
Okay, I was muted. I think you're hearing me from Dr. Smith.
They're not set up. Is David on? Is David on?
I don't see him. Oh, yeah, I think David's there. Yes.
David,
Yes, sir.
David,
Yes, sir.
Deward and Chip are here and they don't have anything. They're needing to know what they need to do. Can we set them up at a computer up here?
Sure.
Deward's got a Chromebook or something in his hand, but he's not sure what to do, and I can't help him.
Let me give him a call.
Or you just tell me what computer we can put him in front of here at BOE.
David.
Yeah, he was right there.
David,
I think he's calling Deward.
Okay. Well, I've got the little laptop, but he'll have to show me how to.
Okay, can you put it in the boardroom?
Well, I gotta, it's not ever been logged onto the network. Let me put it in this computer. Well, I got to, let me take it to the front office first.
Marvin, you just gonna kind of be, Lance is gonna just be with me.
I'm gonna help her with that real quick.
Okay, yeah, get her set up with Chip and Deward. Just to have a seat, coach, right here at the table, and we'll get started here momentarily. Okay, we got you first on the agenda.
Well, I'm not in any big rush in my line of work.
And we'll just, while I get you to set up, get you guys a chair right in front of the camera right here, right in front of my computer.
Only thing I've got to do today is dress some fish. I caught some fish yesterday and I was too tired dressing last night. So
All right, well, good. What's the old saying? A bad day fishing is always better than a good day at work.
it is. It is. Well, have you got your job yet?
Not yet. No, not yet. Just kind of seeing, everything's kind of, with this situation, I think everything is just kind of in a holding pattern, I think, with everything.
Everybody's out of school right now. And,
Yeah, and, you know, of course, the governor closed it the rest of the year, yeah.
let me ask you a question, what are they gonna do if this thing drags on into next year? What are they gonna do about paying these teachers? So forth?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, we're committed, obviously, to pay it. And I think everybody has to pay, you know, everybody, as long as they're, you know, I mean,
Well, contract,
staff,
contract,
contract ceased at the, you know, at the end of June. That's a great question. I don't know. We're waiting on a lot of direction from the DOE. See how we're going to operate with this. We're just in uncharted waters.
Yeah, I don't want to. That's it. Superintendent of education, he's really chill out. I've seen him a lot now.
Richard Woods.
So, you're Yancey, that I used to work for, the Trump program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the board.
Yeah, I don't know, Richard. Well, I tell you,
Okay.
work it out.
Yes. Well, just log in and then they can sign in with their Gmail account. Yeah.
Mr. Bennett coming in?
Hey,
Sure.
look at
Mr.
my
Bennett coming
office.
in?
There should be two
Let me
Chrome
tell you, I was
tabs.
just, he called about at 9:00. You know, his son got insurance there in town, and one of the secretaries tested positive yesterday. And we're sitting around her, and he said, he's got my phone. I said, tell him, he wanted me to heads up, he wanted me just to ask him to look at if he could come.
It
He
has,
is
but
gonna
not
cost
for
her
her.
house.
I don't know, take away her
He's
profile.
contract, it's just off the end of town here. And he said that he can, depending on what they want to say, or
In the
he can-
submarine.
that they can contact got there yesterday or day before yesterday, looked at it. They can't, he said they could cut that big unit off, just do away with it, the air conditioning. And with a couple of small units in that gym in the commons area, the way it is, about $10,000 a piece. And which would take care of the whole thing, but, he's got it all worked out. I mean, he's gonna talk to him about it this morning, but he told me that night, he's not going. I said, I've been exposed to it. I said,
Yeah.
just don't know what happened. I'm just not going. But he knows a lot about that building. West Prospect.
Inside the cabinet.
But he said you're running off one big unit.
You know,
He said if you run it to keep that big unit, he said, yeah, it's going to force you like that.
From the cabinet.
But said he cut it off. That they got you've been out there, it's got a look comes all with it, that building. He said you come off just that and do the gym and the he got it all worked out. But said you can get the gym and the common there separate. We're gonna be up there.
Take home mode. All right, let them log into that. Muted right now.
You know, if I was coaching, if I was still coaching, I would love to have that deal to I called her in high school. I a girl I used to work with, she and I they prayed they together down there, get in touch with. They got a room now for players and working 4 players You know, coach can work with.
Your hands, yes.
Davis has it on that laptop. Okay.
Man, I need to sit here.
Y'all gonna have to get close to this, I reckon.
We'll turn it.
Here.
Get ready. This day and time.
She's got it up with the speaker and the group. So we recognize. Does this thing have a camera? Can you see camera on that Chromebook? I mean, on that laptop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on there.
Yeah,
You can see,
yes.
can you see where you need them
I got
actually, I can put this up on the,
I see them all.
you can see.
All right, Jeff, you got everybody on?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and.
Can you hear me? Austin, that's good.
Oh,
He called me that night. He said, I'm not home, but.
Can you hear Dewey talking? Say something to.
Can you hear me, Leonard?
no, okay.
Yeah, there you can hear you. He was listening for you.
I can hear you, Deward.
Okay.
All right. And Dean's in here too, Linda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dean.
Good morning.
A little closer.
David, what do I click so that I can see everybody like in a grid?
You can click on the three dots on the bottom right and you can change your layout.
Thank you. Let me see who's all here right now. Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Better than that.
So I see Deward. Jack, I see you. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Chip, you sitting there by Dean?
I am. I got.
I think I saw Mitch on here. Mitch, are you here? I don't think Mitch is here right now.
You can see the attendee list by clicking on the people icon. It's got the number 6 by it.
You got your mute.
Everybody.
Good morning, Marvin.
I know we got words.
You got it all worked out, yes.
Hey, I'm looking for Mitch. I don't see him. Anybody seen or heard from Mitch?
He was supposed to.
There he goes. Hi, Mitch. Mitch, can you hear me?
Well,
Can you hear me?
There, now I can hear you. I'm wanting to ask you to do our invocation. I think we might be ready to come to order. We're getting a lot of background noise from somebody. Yeah, David, I think that was you.
Hey, is your computer on or your microphone on?
She's muted. That's right. I just muted. I
Okay.
be right together, right?
We may need everyone except for the speaker to mute themselves.
I remember how to do that. I learned how to.
The gentlemen in the boardroom, are you working off of one computer or three?
They are.
One? Okay. Let's go ahead and call ourselves to order, gentlemen. I'd like to ask Mitch to lead us in an invocation, if we could all be silent for a moment.
Sure. Let's pray. Now, Heavenly Father God, we thank you for another day. We thank you for another day that you've given us to serve you. And Lord, we just pray and ask that today, as we go through the business of the school district, no matter whether we are in the building or whether we're in our own homes or our own offices, we ask that you completely and totally take over and take control of all decisions made. We ask you to continue to bless our county, our nation. And Lord, we know that you are in control. And we'll give you the praise and the glory for it all. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. If you all could please rise and say the pledge together, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have another phone somewhere over there. PC speaker.
Is there anyone in the boardroom with the gentleman? Is there anyone else in that room?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. I think when you all are speaking quietly to each other, it creates chatter here for everybody else.
It's still speaking.
That's coming from somewhere else. I think it's coming from the office.
PC speaker and speakers are on.
Can you tell?
I turn my speaker off here.
We'll go ahead and try to proceed. I need a motion to approve this morning's agenda. That sound like Mitch?
Close
May I
that.
have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Chip. All those in favor?
Aye.
Call that unanimous. Now we have our portion of the meeting for public comment. Dr. Smith, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, I've got with me this morning, I think most of you know Wayne Sasser, former Pierce County High School teacher and basketball coach for many years, and he is asked to address us this morning, address you regarding the gymnasium, old gymnasium at the high school. And Mr. Wes Bennett was also going to be here this morning, but he is not going to be able to be here this morning. And so it's Coach Sasser, so I'm going to turn it over to him, that he can sit here at my desk and address you. So we're going to do a transition here and Coach Sasser.
Dr. Smith, let's pause for just a moment. I think we need to figure out where this chatter is interfering on our line.
Yeah.
Someone is listening to, someone has two devices that are listening to the meeting on. They need to mute themselves.
Coach, you want to just sit in my chair here with the cameras right there. You see yourself.
David, I know I couldn't hear you. I don't know if anyone else could.
Someone is listening to the meeting from two different devices in the same place. Everybody needs to mute themselves except for Dr. Smith currently. Until we can figure
Okay,
out.
so someone's listening from two devices, maybe a telephone and a computer,
Yes, that's why we're getting.
and they need to
feedback.
turn the other one on.
We can have everyone mute themselves.
I'm only on my telephone.
That didn't do it. That didn't do it upstairs. Still, where it's coming back. Feedback.
The little microphone things are showing that it's coming from that boardroom.
All right, it stopped.
There we go.
Whoever that was.
All right, I think we're silent. Coach Sasser?
Right up there in the corner, Coach.
Going back.
Okay, I think
Okay,
we're ready to
better?
roll. Let's go ahead and proceed. We'd like to hear what
All
Coach
right,
Sasser has to say.
this is Coach Wayne Sasser. Coach.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you folks for letting me come this morning and talk to you a little bit about that. I can because of my concern for the basketball program in Pierce County. I've been retired now for several years, but I'm still one of the biggest fans of basketball. And also other athletic programs. I'm just a big Pierce County fan. One thing I wanted to mention to you is Wes Spence was supposed to be here today, but because of the virus, he was in contact with somebody that's been exposed, so he decided not to come. He asked me to ask you to give him time, to get up here and talk to you. He has done a analysis on that gym and partially there, and he said Wes in the contracting business now, and he also he's done a lot of work on it. And he told me last night he had he just had everything you need to look at about that gym and about the commons area especially. So I would ask you to give him time to get up here and talk to you. And I want to mention a couple of things to you about the gym. If I was coaching out there, I would love to have that gym as an extra practice facility. Georgia High School has changed some laws, some rules since I was coaching. A coach can take 4 players now. One coach can take 4 players and work with them in the off season. And that gym would be a great facility for him to do it in. I don't know if you folks have thought about it or not, but these kids now, the girls and boys use the same facility. Girls, in the wintertime, it gets dark early. The girls go in, practice fields at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They usually get through about, I would guess, 6:30. Time the boys get on the floor, it's close to 7. The time they get out of that gym, it's 9 or 9:30 at night. It's been dark 2 or 3 hours. If you could use that other facility, that both of them, one practicing one in the other, and they could rotate it, you would have that. You get them out of there and get them home, at a reasonable hour, where they could do their schoolwork, have time to do a few other things besides worry about practice and so forth. And I think it'd be a safety feature for you. I think it'd be a big help to get these kids off the road. And I think that's what we're all concerned about. One of the things we're concerned about is taking care of these students and these not just basketball players, but everybody. Another thing I want to mention is if you go, I've been in this business 35 years, and I do know that you cannot make a basketball player in a weight room. You have to have that facility, have to have the gym be able to shoot a basketball. If they can't dribble, pass, and shoot, they can't play. And you've got an opportunity here. And I keep up with Pierce County basketball. I don't go to all the games, but I keep up with it. Now, Ron Spell had a team down at the 8th grade. He went down and coached it last year. They went undefeated. I think the girls went undefeated too. These kids are in the 9th grade now. If they're shut out of the gym and don't work, they're going to lose interest. Part of them are just, you'll lose them. If you've got an opportunity for the next 2 years, those kids have an opportunity to go in a place and work and spend time at it. They could, in 2 years from now, you could have a championship ball club. And that's one thing I'm concerned about. I made a long list of things here, and I can sit here and talk to you all day about the reasons you keep that gym. But I know one of the things that's going to come up is the cost. I know that's one thing that's going to be said about it's the cost. I know that they've got a petition that goes through the middle of the gym, that new gym, You say, well, you can make 2 courts and they go in there and play 2 games at the same time. Folks, the gym is a coach's classroom. If I'm in there coaching, I don't want all those distractions going on when I'm trying to coach basketball. And if I'm preparing to play a tough ball game this Friday night and I'm in there practicing Wednesday, I don't need all those distractions. You can take that other gym and have a place where a boys or a girls coach can get over and work by themselves and get your team ready to play. There's just so many advantages to it. And I can sit here and talk to you all day about it. I'm not going to waste your time or mine. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you is just delay this thing. If once you tear it down, it's gone. If you delay it and think about it a little bit, I think you can find a lot of things you could do with that building, especially the gym, the commons area. Another thing I thought about is we've got a Pierce County Hall of Fame now. They don't have a building for that. They don't have a building to do it, to put it in. They're going to be asking somebody to help them build a building to do that Hall of Fame. I think they've had it for 3 years. That commons area would probably be a great place to do it, probably. I know you're going to have people all over the county to say tear it down. Some are going to say keep it. I've probably had 10 or 12 people call me and ask me to come talk to you about it. They say, well, you know more about that gym and everything than most people, so go up there and talk to them. I know I think in my mind you need to keep it. There's some other things I thought about that school, about the Botec Inn and whatever. I know it's going to cost a lot of money to do all that stuff, and I'm not prepared to do that today. But Wes can tell you about the costs. He had one of his contractors go out there and look at that gym, and he told me yesterday that they could that gym could be saved for minimum amount of what's been put in the paper. He said they could, you can't use that big air conditioner, but they can put smaller air conditioners and heating unit in that gym and in the commons area, and heat and cool it for a lot less than has been projected.
Coach Sasser?
Yes, ma'am.
I need to interrupt you, sir. I think you knew that we had a 5-minute limit.
Yes, ma'am. I know that, and I'm going to get out of here. I just, like I said, I can sit here and talk to you about it all day. All I'm asking you today to do is to delay this thing until, we can discuss it more and figure out what can be done with it. Once you tear it down, it's over. And I do appreciate your time.
We appreciate your interest and your passion. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. I think all this stuff we will be talking about.
Miss Avis, can you hear us?
Appreciate it. We'll be in touch. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I can.
It looks like when I look at the agenda that the minutes did not get attached for our review.
No, ma'am, they were attached.
Gentlemen, did you have an opportunity to review them?
What is it?
Yes.
When you pull up here, you will sit in my chair. Whatever.
If we've looked at the minutes, does anyone have any objection to moving these to the consent agenda? So I think we have an issue in that the microphone now is muted in the boardroom and we can't hear the votes of those gentlemen.
Whatever y'all do with feedback, it works. It's the boardroom. It's the boardroom.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Smith, it worked except that now I can't hear them. Their microphone is muted.
David got muted.
Say again, Linda, I'm sorry.
The microphone in the boardroom is muted, and so I can't get a vote from those gentlemen. That's better. Avis, could you please shift that? I can't see them anymore either.
Could they raise their hand or?
Okay, which way does it need to go?
Just turn it.
They are too below in the screen, so you need to move them up in the screen. Other way, please.
Other way. There you go. There you go. A little more.
Thank you. Okay, I'm calling for, are there any objections to moving the minutes to the consent?
No.
And I do not hear any objections, as usual. We move to item number 7 now, which is the old high school surplus inventory.
Yes, you should all have a list of the items that are left over at the high school, at the old high school. We had an opportunity to all of our staff in all 5 schools have had an opportunity to go in and look and identify what they want. And they've done that. All the principals have confirmed that they've done that. They've gotten all the items and identified the items that they can use in the schools. And then we've also had the county officials have gone in and they've identified and flagged what they want. And not all of it has been removed from the school, but they flagged and identified what they feel like would be of use through various departments within Pierce County, including law enforcement and the county officials. So what is left now is the items that you have on the list. It was submitted and to clear those surplus so that we can go through a process of doing a public auction to allow these items to be open for the highest bidder to be purchased, so we can get those out of the way.
Do you gentlemen have any questions or comments you'd like to make on this inventory that's been provided to us? Jack, I appreciate you shaking your head. That's helpful. I believe
we just for your information, obviously in the situation, the circumstances we're in, we don't have a date in mind right now for a public auction. That will be obviously sometime in the future. Once we determine when the best time to do that based on our circumstances with the virus. But we would like to do a public auction for all of that furniture and equipment that's left in the high school at some point in time in the near future, when things are a good time to do that.
Dr. Smith, I assume whenever we reach that point, there'll be a gracious plenty advance notice to the public.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Hearing no questions, this item I believe requires no action. It's just informational for the board. So we'll move on to the next item, Dr. Smith, item 8.
Declared surplus.
Well, it will need action, Linda. Not today, but for our meeting on Monday, the board will need to declare these items surplus and approve them as surplus items.
Is there any wisdom in doing that closer to the time we expect to hold the sale? What do you gentlemen think of that?
I think that's right. Exactly.
Harbin, Levance?
It really won't make a difference. They're going to be declared. They just need to be declared surplus before we can do anything with them. So whether you do it now or do it later, really doesn't gain you anything either way. They just have to be declared surplus before they can be.
Given our current situation with the pandemic, let's just hold this. And when we get ready to move again, we'll go ahead and declare a surplus at that time. Gentlemen, is that sufficient to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Moving to item number 8.
We've had an application turned in for a non-resident student for next school year, 2021, and it's a first grader at Patterson Elementary School. Ms. Dixon has approved this application, so I'd like to recommend that we approve this first grade student to attend our school system for the next school year.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. No, we won't be taking a vote. Is there any objection to moving this one to the consent?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move this one to consent. Item number 9, the budget review.
Yes,
if you all would all please,
go ahead.
Would you please mute your, so that we can hear?
I've got Levance here in my office. I'm going to turn it over to him to present the second draft of the 2021 fiscal year budget and any questions or comments that you may have. So, Levance?
Dr. Smith and board, with all the situation that we have going on right now with the pandemic and basically the entire economy being put on pause, Dr. Smith and I spent a good bit of time talking about the requested adds that we had to the budget. And we feel very strongly that we need to hang on to as much money as we can, not add additional, not add additional.
Can't hear Levance. I think he got.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But because of the things that have happened with the pandemic, the economy basically being put on pause, we anticipate a very difficult year financially next year, just shortages in state funding. And with that, the additions that we had in the first draft of the budget, we basically have taken all of those away. With the exception of trying to adjust the soccer and cross-country coaching supplements at the high school to try to get them in better balance with middle school supplements. So that piece is basically the only add that you'll see in the second draft of the budget. I've also gone in and looked at areas where we've had a little bit left over from the appropriation in previous years. Also with our new high school coming online, we anticipate less of an electrical expense, energy expense, in facilities. So made a few adjustments there as well to try to get a balanced budget for you to look at the second draft. Now it is still very preliminary. A work in progress, but we're trying, you'll see the direction that we're trying to take it. We don't anticipate our funding being cut for this fiscal year at this point, but we do anticipate cuts next year. So what we'll do is just quickly take a look at the appropriations. That's the first page there behind the cover sheet. We've gone over some of this as far as our QBE earnings. We anticipated some drops in funding due to a reduction in enrollment. But in addition, you'll see a new item added there, 3124 formula adjustments. Gratefully, we haven't had to look at that item in a number of years. But that is where the state had us put the formula adjustments that they've had in the past due to revenue shortfalls whenever we were coming out of the financial exigency of 2008. We anticipate that some of that's coming back. And that's where you'll see those formula adjustments if they do indeed come. And then the other thing that we had talked about previously is 3,200 equalization. We anticipate a drop in funding there, due in part to enrollment, but the other piece being, if you look at the trend of our equalization, this past year was unusually high. Any questions on the appropriations page? I mean, the revenue page.
So, Lawrence, have you heard, obviously nobody has a crystal ball, but have you heard from the state anything about the expected impact from all this? Have they given you any guidance on local revenue that's going to be, especially in a small town like this? Have they given you any guidance on how it's going to impact our budget?
Well, the state has basically said, be prepared for a very difficult financial situation next year. They can't quantify it. Right now, there's no way they can get their heads wrapped around it. But our state funds come from basically the taxes and everything that come from commerce. And with the economy being shut down for basically a quarter, their revenues are going to drop. And state revenues were already trending behind their projections for this year. So what that tells, I think, anybody, if you kind of think about it, if their revenue is going to be reduced because basically the economy shut down, then they're going to have to reduce their revenue to us. So as state funds, they say be prepared for a very difficult year next year. As far as our local funds, most of our local revenue is based on property values, which is a good thing. They're not going to just all of a sudden fall because the economy has been put on pause. So I'm not so much worried about our ad valorem tax. I do think our TABT tax, which goes into our local revenue, will probably be reduced because if people don't have as much money, they're not going to be buying as many cars. And that's where most of that TABT money comes from. I do think we need to watch our SPLOST dollars. That's definitely driven by commerce, and with the economy being put on hold for almost a quarter, I think our SPLOST revenues are going to be depressed, and that's what we use to pay our bond payments. So I think that's something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. And Dr. Smith did want us to talk, once we finish with this, a little bit about those capital projects, which is SPLOST. So we can talk about that a little bit more. Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions on the revenue piece?
Yes, sir. Two questions. Is the state still holding the same deadline for us to submit our budget?
As of right now, I have not seen anything. Well, it's in the Constitution. I don't think they can waive that. If for some reason we couldn't get it done, we would have to do monthly spending resolutions beginning in July. Now,
tell us. Oh, I see. Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
I think what you're thinking, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically there's a lot of unknowns here. Should we set a budget in June? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, what I'm wondering is whether we need an alternative possible budget. If we don't have income for a quarter of the year, and I use that term don't have income loosely, might we consider a mock budget that potentially, what would we do if our income was reduced by, say, 20%?
Well, what I'm thinking that we should do, and this is my suggestion to the board, we worked very hard to put a reserve in place, and we have a reserve in place, a substantial reserve. I would suggest that we go into this coming year with a balanced budget based on what we anticipate. If we do get cut, we have a reserve we can draw from. And if the cut that we get is significant enough that we feel like that's too much of our reserve to cover it, we can amend the budget and make further cuts.
So the state process allows for us to amend a budget?
You can amend a budget, yes, ma'am.
And you can amend it multiple times during the year?
You can.
Because I'm thinking this looks like a $34 million budget and our reserve is roughly 8. I mean, that's 25% of our budget right there. We could potentially, I'm talking in round figures. If we're talking about a quarter of the year and a quarter of our budget, we could eat up our reserve next year. I know I'm speaking in round figures.
We'll have to see what the formula adjustments look like. Back when we had our the 2008 deal, the highest formula adjustment that we had was $3.5 million for one fiscal year. I can't tell you it won't be more this time because in 2008, the banking, housing, and finance was miserable, but the rest of the economy continued to operate. Basically, everything's been stopped for a little while now. So I just don't, and I don't think anybody at the state level either has a way to quantify that at this point.
That's right. And certainly this is unprecedented times. Do I understand you correctly to say that finishing up this current year isn't, even though this is happening in the current year, our budget and our funding is not impacted for this year, or it still could be?
There's been nothing from financial review, or we get a lot of stuff from Gary McGivney, I believe is how you say his name. We've seen nothing about guys get ready for a cut from this year's budget, but they have said get ready for next year.
And in this year's budget, we could still be impacted by the TAVT and the SPLOST because those are in real time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
So there's a possibility, I'm being theoretically here, that we could begin eating into our reserve even now. Or is that not true?
Well, there is a possibility. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns here. If the state doesn't start cutting us, I don't think we will have to do that. I mean, last year's budget had us using a little bit, $133,000. This year's budget had us using $133,000 out of our reserve. Things have been good as far as revenue up until recently, and our spending in a number of categories is behind what we've appropriated. So at this point, I don't really anticipate us getting into our reserve this year unless the state all of a sudden said, guys, we got to pull back some money, which could happen. But they have not indicated at this point that they are going to do that. Now, the SPLOST money, that's outside of this budget. This is our operating budget, but we do need to keep those revenues in mind for bond payments because we have to make $127,000 a month, every month, to make the bond payments that are required for a year.
Is there anyone else would like to weigh in on this question?
I do, Ms. Linda.
Yes.
Maybe it's not about the budget, it's just about a contingency plan for the budget. I know that Levance has spoken to the ad valorem tax, but we need to make sure if there's any bankruptcies or even just late tax payments, because if these folks are hurting, their taxes may be late coming in. So we need to put that into the contingency plan, I think.
I agree.
I like your use of the word contingency plan. And Levance, we certainly don't expect that you have one today, and none of us do have that crystal ball. But I hope you begin thinking about that for us. You've been through this before in terms of a reduced budget. Anyone else? Levance, I know I interrupted your presentation. If you would like to continue.
No, that's why we're here, to walk through this. On the revenue side, we'll go ahead to the appropriations. And if you like to know the ending of the story before you read the book, you can look at the last page and basically see what I've tried to do is provide you with a balanced budget. And you'll also notice on that last page that we've adjusted our estimated fund balance at the end of this year to 7.9 million. That's adjusted up. And that's based on, there's a lot of things we normally do that right now we're not doing. So electrical, diesel fuel, even though we're doing the feeding, there's a lot of things that are costs of operation that are not taking place right now. And so we anticipate our unassigned fund balance to end a little bit higher this year, unless the state takes some money. and again, that's an unknown. We'll have to look at it when we go to our third draft. But we've tried to provide a pretty well balanced budget. And the way we've done that is just made a few changes throughout this budget. We've adjusted our supplies to the schools down 5% for instruction. You'll see some changes in 2210 and 2213. It's a net reduction of about $10,000, but 2210 went up a bit, and 2213 went down a good bit. And that's just based on the needs that had been brought to us by our instructional leaders. 2220 in supplies, again, a 5% reduction. In 2400 in supplies, a 5% reduction. In maintenance and operations, we've done a reduction in repair and maintenance services, but that's based on unspent funds from previous years. We had an appropriation, but we didn't need that much. I feel like the $225,000 in that category, we've got to have at least that much. Supplies, there, a small reduction, about $30,000 in maintenance. Energy, a good drop there from $525,000 to $490,000. That's based on prior years and also moving to the new facility. Pupil transportation, we've got a reduction in supplies of about $10,000. In energy, roughly $15,000. And then that takes us to that back page. Any questions on the appropriations?
You mentioned something, Levance. I know obviously the schools are out and will be for the rest of the year. We're continuing to pay our teachers. Is there a chance that the state will come back and say, we gave you $1,400 per pupil to educate them and they're not in school? Is there a chance that the state will come back and ask for some type of a rebate or anything?
Based on the information that we've gotten from Financial Review, Amy Rowell, she's people like me, she's who we contact. And this is in writing, not over the telephone. No, I don't think we have to worry about that.
Okay, good.
The other thing that I checked with her on, because I had some concerns, was because we do pay some employees with federal funds. And the guidance that we've gotten, again in writing, is that as long as we pay the employees who are paid with federal funds, as we do our folks who are paid with our QBE, which state and local funds, then there's not an issue. So if we pay our folks to the end of the year, whether it's federal funds or QBE funds, we should be fine.
Okay.
We've seen nothing to the contrary from, again, Financial Review and also the folks that reach out to Dr. Smith, as superintendent.
Yeah.
For example, the transportation money, I'm not sure exactly where those funds come from for transportation, but now that we're not running our buses every day, they're not going to want any type of a refund or a rebate, I hope.
No, sir, I would not think so, because they pay us about less than $500,000 on a $2.5 million expense.
Right.
And the other thing is, I think people around the state appreciate this fact, is we are using those buses to run around and feed kids. So I would not anticipate any kind of issue with the nursing grant, because they only pay a small portion of our nursing or transportation. There's been no indication that these funds, since the governor has said you have to do this, that there would be any kind of a request for a reimbursement or a, hey, we're going to hold some money back. The only thing I don't know about is, if the state got in a really, really bad situation constitutionally, they're required to have a balanced budget just like we are. And they do have a reserve like we do, and I think that's how they're going to balance and get us through this year. But everybody at the Office of Planning and Budget is going to try to figure out now, how do we make this state run next year with a balanced budget with what's happened to the economy? And that's probably going to take them a while to figure out.
I'd like to slice that a different way. I wonder if they have the ability to tell us, well, since we paid you in the spring of 2000 and you didn't work, we want you to work for us in the fall of 2020, for the money we already paid you.
The guidance that Dr. Smith and I have received, I think most of that comes from Gary McGivney, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Most of the information that they have sent out indicates to the contrary, that they are not going to do that. They're not going to come back and say, guys, we paid you, you owe us, you have to work some next year without payment. We also haven't seen anything that indicated that they would expect us to have school June and July for these months that we haven't worked in the spring. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that those possibilities are not going to be exercised by the state.
Yeah. Yeah, we received nothing, indicating anything to the contrary on that.
Okay, gentlemen, any other questions or discussion for Levance? Mitch, any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, you're silent. I just wanted to make sure you were still there.
No, I'm here.
Hey, just before we move on, Linda, Ms. Ekman, I would like to just touch on for just a moment the capital projects.
Yeah.
Dr. Smith, I need you to move your blocking Levance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you would. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I would like for us to, and Dr. Smith would like for us to just touch on briefly the capital projects. We had a number of items that were approved by the board this past June. And we were talking about doing the covered walkway at Midway Elementary School. And we also had some discussions about the track, putting a rubber surface on that. And those two items total about $300,000. That's our estimated budget for those things. And we just need guidance if the board feels like, hey, we need to move ahead and do that. There is some school of thought that, right now, none of us really know what all of this is going to look like as far as how it's going to hit us financially. And should we hold on to every dollar we can at this point and postpone those items? Or does the board feel like at least those two items we need to move forward on?
Levance, I need you to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see that here as an agenda item.
I did not intend to have it there, but and we can it's part of the overall budget. It's just not our operating budget. If you don't want to address it, I'm fine with that.
Well, we just wanted to kind of include it as part of this budget discussion. We obviously are coming up on summer, and particularly in those two items, if we want to get those done, we got to have a little lead time, get them scheduled, get them bid out, and scheduled to get the work done over the summer. We hopefully, obviously, anticipate starting school, in August of next year. Hopefully, time will tell, but we'll be in an opportunity to do that. I think, particularly in those two items, we've been talking about the canopy project at Midway for a while, and then of course the track issue, potentially could fall under a safety issue. And if we're going to do that work, it needs to really be done over the summertime to not disrupt the instructional program. The parking lot at the middle school, that possibly could wait, but I would like to see, the canopy and the track probably be done this summer if the board would like to move forward on that.
And the place that ties in with the budget is, it's like Jack was asking about our SPLOST revenues and what do we anticipate. And so in this broad discussion of our revenues and our expenditures, we just wanted to bring up to the board, these are already board approved items, but should we proceed with looking at doing that for this summer? Or does the board feel like maybe we need to just hold off on those items?
I understand what you all are saying, but I want to be the keeper of the agenda. Would you please make up a board item for our the board meeting on that Monday, so that we have some time to think about it? I think you're catching us all on the left foot a little bit. So if you would please just make an agenda item and list those items and their cost, and of course remind us that we did approve them in whatever meeting that was. And we'll have that discussion when we meet again. Is there a downside? Is there work to be done between now and the 13th?
Not at all.
No.
Okay. Okay, what I'd like to do then is adhere to what we have on the agenda for consideration.
Okay.
Levance, anything else on your finances?
No, ma'am, that's it right now. I'm hoping we'll get additional guidance from the state as they get their heads wrapped around the numbers.
Aren't we all?
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say how much we appreciate you and what you do, because whatever crystal ball you have is going to be needed, and your relationships and your communication with the higher ups at the state regarding this. We appreciate you being in the position you're in.
Well, thank you. And this is a terrible situation we're facing, but guys, I'm not saying it's not going to be a rough ride for us, but we are in a good position to have to deal with this situation, if that makes sense.
I believe we are, for all that we've done over the last, 10, 12 years?
Yes, ma'am.
To accumulate in that position. The next item on the agenda is item 10, which gives you a heads up for our Monday meeting. And of course, because we anticipated spring break in here, it will not be this coming Monday, but rather the following Monday, the 13th. So we'll move to item number 11, which are 3 items for discussion.
The first is the upcoming June conference. Again, assuming that at this point nothing's been communicated that's been postponed, and obviously we'll receive that information if we do from GSBA. But the attached information form regarding the June conference needs to be sent in to email to Avis, so that we can get everybody registered and signed to the right sessions there on that upcoming conference first week in June.
Okay, so that's an attachment to the agenda you want us to print off and fill out? Is that what the instructions are?
Yes, I believe so. And then send forward that to Avis.
Any trouble, gentlemen, with doing that?
No, ma'am.
If there is a problem, you could probably snail mail it to her, or I imagine you could call her or let her know how you want to fill that report out. Okay, Dr. Smith?
All right, the second item is the Board of Elections forms. All board members will need to fill out the paperwork at the Board of Elections here in Pierce County. Make sure that with elections coming up, and just make sure everybody's got what they need filed, so we don't have any issues with deadlines or anything like that.
There is not a deadline that we're worried about?
Do not believe so. Just need to, as timely as you can, to contact Board of Elections office and just make sure that you've got everything that needs to be turned in is turned in.
All right, we appreciate that reminder.
And
Okay, and
again,
item C.
going back to the conference forums, any questions you have, board members, just contact Davis on that, and she'll walk you through whatever you need on that. The third item, I just want to kind of give everybody as much as possible an update. I'm trying to keep everybody updated, staff and board, and I know there's a ton of emails being forwarded. As information comes in to me, and it's just about daily. As you know, I just want to kind of give everybody a little bit of a status report on the school system right now. Obviously, we all know how difficult, how challenging all this has been. It's been unexpected, unplanned, unprecedented. But I will tell you, and I think I've tried to share this, and I've shared this with the staff, and this is absolutely no surprise to anyone, but everybody's stepping up. Everybody's pulling together. Everybody's doing a fantastic job dealing with less than ideal circumstances, certainly. And as you heard Levant say, we've talked extensively budget-wise. We never anticipated having to deal with this, but budget-wise and financially, as a school system, we're able to take this blow and take this because we are in such strong financial shape. And so very, very pleased with everybody's attitude. Everybody's staying positive. Everybody's pulling together. Everybody's doing what they can for our school system. As you know, yesterday, Governor Kemp announced a closure. This was disappointing. We were hopeful and optimistic that at some point in late April, early May, that we would somehow, some way be able to come back and get into school. That's not going to be possible with the closure through the rest of the school year. So obviously, we're going to continue to look at our distance learning is continuing to be focused with our principals and our leadership team. A good number and a majority of our students and families are being served through this using Google Classroom and a lot of the platforms that we have. There are some that are not, and that's a concern. And we got to constantly try to put plans in place. The teachers and our staff is doing an excellent job of reaching out and communicating to our students. That is absolutely vital. And so they're making phone calls, they're reaching out and communicating, but because of accessibility and availability of technology, not all of our families have access to the technology platforms. And there was a concern. We looked at doing some delivery of some paper packets. We sent the students home with that when we canceled initially back in mid-March, but that time has kind of run out. There's a concern about putting our staff and putting our parents and putting our students in the potential danger of coming to the school and picking up packets and delivery. So we're trying to address that. We're waiting on some additional guidance from DOE. That's the main focus right now with our leadership. So we're going to continue through that and continue to use what technology is available, but trying to address those families that just do not have that at their disposal. We did send a survey home this week with the meals. So we're again want to reach out to those families that do not have the technology availability and access and see if we can continue to do some of those instructional directives over the phone and that type of thing. We are continuing to deliver lunch Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with the order yesterday to shelter in place that is going to go into effect tomorrow. We are waiting to see, and I think we're going to get some additional directives today from the governor's office. We're waiting to see what impact that may have on the delivery of meals. We did not plan to deliver over spring break next week anyway, but we are seeing if there's a potential impact for tomorrow. I did receive a notice from Matt Jones from the DOE that yesterday in an email, and it was confirmed again this morning from Richard Woods, that the state considers meal delivery to be essential services. So if that be the case, then we would not be under the restrictions of a shelter-in-place order. But I will tell you, there's rising concerns as the cases here in Pierce County continue to rise, and we're up to 7 confirmed cases here in Pierce County, that our staff has in exposing our staff and exposing our students and exposing our families to the virus, and the putting them more and more in danger. So I'm working with Becky Swain. We're talking today. We hope to continue tomorrow, and then we'll just see where we are, putting in plans after spring break. We would like to continue to deliver meals through our closure, which would be the rest of the school year. We're up to over 1,200 meals now that we're delivering. It's built every day, so we will see. So I'll keep you posted on that. So we'd like to continue to deliver, but we'll just see where things are there. Grades, a lot of questions about grades. Grades pretty much have been cut off at the end of the third 9 weeks, which was right at the time that we dismissed and closed school in mid-March. So the timing on that was good. Any grading that's done with the delivery of the lessons right now, the grade will not hurt students. They can only help students. And the high school in particular is focusing on those graduating seniors and make sure they have everything they need toward graduation. But grades, pretty much as far as any rankings and things like that, it's been cut off at the end of the third 9 weeks. We don't really anticipate to do much with grading. Our dual enrollment students are continuing online with being directed by their colleges and the program that they're in there. So they're continuing to receive grades through their colleges, through their program there. We are, again, waiting to get additional guidance from the DOE, and we'll get that. We're getting that just about every day. A lot of questions concerning graduation. Graduation, as you know, was scheduled for May the 22nd. We'll get continued guidance on that. We would like to certainly have a graduation ceremony if it's not able to be done on the 22nd. We would like to reschedule and have one even if it's in June or July. We think our students deserve a graduation ceremony, our seniors. Our staff would like to have that. So as soon as we get the clearance to have that type of event, we want to schedule that. We're hoping that it's going to be May 22nd. That has not officially been canceled at this point. We're waiting on guidance, but there's more than likely a good chance that it's going to have to be rescheduled. But we are committed to rescheduling it and holding it whenever we're allowed to do that. So we'll just kind of stand by on that. Also, summer school, extended school, sometime in the summer, the principals are looking at that as a possibility to maybe schedule that once we get things stabilized, to maybe recoup some of the lost instructional time that we've had with our students. So we're looking at that as a potential contingency plan as well, to do some type of an extended school sometime this summer, maybe early prior to the classes starting in August. Everything is just in a holding pattern right now, guys, as we all know. This is just times that we've not faced before, and we're waiting on a lot of direction, which we need from the DOE. And as we get that, we'll lay our plans, put our plans. But everyone's doing a wonderful job, staying positive and staying together. And we're doing as good a job as we possibly can, communicating with each other electronically. And we're doing that. And I can't be more proud of the way that we've responded and continue to respond in our school system.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you. This is the opportunity for any further discussion or questions. I know many of you are hearing things out of the community, or you have children of your own in the school system. Do you have any questions?
Dr. Smith, I have a question concerning I guess it would be primarily the elementary schools. And I've heard it from other systems around the state as well. Are all three of our elementary schools handling everything the same? And I'm not necessarily talking about meal delivery. I guess I'm talking about instructional type items, whether it be on paper or whether it be online. I think it's important that all three of our schools are somewhat standardized in what they're doing, and I don't want to hear that Patterson's doing it one way and Blackshear's doing it a different way. Are there any issues that you're aware of?
Well, yeah, and that's certainly the intent, Jack, that we do. Obviously, we've got to reach out to our students. We have to communicate. It's got to be consistent, and we want to certainly provide the same instructional opportunity for all of our students. And so we talked about that extensively. We'll continue. I'm going to meet with them again tomorrow, and as we break for spring break, to make sure that we have that in place. That's vital. And so they're attempting to do that. And our concern again has been, and we are well aware that there are families that have some challenges with the technology and with receiving that. And we understand that. And so that's where a lot of our efforts and their efforts have been, to try to reach out to those students, our special education students, and making sure they're communicated with, making sure they feel supported. So that's absolutely vital, and we're continuing to do that, and we'll continue to do that. That's absolutely a point of our focus.
Right, and I obviously it goes back to, I guess, you kind of, to make things equal, you kind of have to do, I don't want to say, quote, teach to the lowest student like you have had to do in the past in the classrooms, but they've broken it out and they've handled one group a certain way and a different group a different way based on their abilities in the classroom. So if one of our principals, for example, come up with a great idea on how to reach or how to handle certain situations or how to get in touch with more people, I'm hoping that the three of them, and again, I'm talking about the elementary schools more than anything, the three of them are on the same page. I hope they're talking and they're sharing ideas and coming up with a plan instead of one person doing one thing and another school doing it a totally different way. Because you know how it is. You're going to get. I
can assure you that they are talking and they are working together and collaborating together and trying to make address that. Absolutely.
Good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, do we know what anything that Georgia High School may be doing as far as the spring sports programs? Are these guys going to have another year of eligibility? Or I'm afraid the kids that's wanting to hold back just so they can play.
Haven't heard anything, Mitch. And again, that's part of that guidance. I know that GHSA was waiting on directions from the governor, where they got that yesterday. We got that yesterday as far as the status of school closure, extending that beyond the school year, which obviously goes into the pretty much ending the seasons of everything here currently in the spring. But as far as eligibility or anything like that, we have not received anything on that yet, but we would certainly expect to have that in the coming days. I know obviously the NCAA, the collegiate level, has addressed that. I feel certain, in the coming days, in the near future, we'll receive some type of a directive from the GHSA on that.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
The good news about that is it should be uniform across the state.
Yes.
Anything else? In a moment here, we're going to go into executive session. Oh, I skipped one, excuse me. Dates to remember, they're very simple this time. Our, should we call it a fake spring break? I'm not sure, spring break. And our next meeting on April 13th, and the time changes then to 7 p.m. So we're gonna go into an executive session, and let me just explain what I hope we'll be able to achieve here. We will I think the best thing is for you to mute and take. David, you might have to help me. Should we get completely out of this meeting?
Yes, we should.
Or do the
board
compute-
members should leave this meeting and then rejoin after executive session.
Leave the meeting.
Yes.
So David will be keeping this meeting open, but each of us will actually leave. And after executive session, we'll go back to this link and come back into this open meeting. So there is a separate link provided. You should have had an email.
When
it's-
was that sent? I'm sorry. When was that sent?
It was sent last night.
Okay, let me find it here.
That
It might
was
take us a
confusing.
few minutes.
That was from you, right, Linda? That
Yes.
invite was from Linda.
Or if you go to your Google Calendar, you can click on it there.
Oh, really? Okay. Google.
Again, David, I'm going to ask for some help for you here. I wonder if we should stay in this meeting till we make sure we can all get there? Because this is our means of communication in the meantime.
Yes, for now, just make sure that, make sure everybody's either sees the calendar invite or the email invite.
So what I'm doing is going in my Gmail and clicking on the calendar to find it.
Yeah, I see it on my calendar. Executive session 8:45.
That's right.
We can keep this one X out of this and go into
Just hit the little
minimize button right here. Right here.
Yeah, the little negative button up top. Yeah, that.
So I'm gonna leave this and I'm gonna try to hook up on the other one here.
Okay, you're good, Jack.
I don't even know how to get out of this thing.
You can hit the
I
red
think if you go to the
telephone
lower right, leave.
the red telephone icon will leave.
Oh, I got it. Good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the only ones left in this meeting are Dr. Smith and Ms. Zeckman, as far as the members that need to go to executive session. So Dr. Smith, if you can hit that red phone icon to leave this meeting. You're currently muted also, Dr. Smith. The red telephone icon to leave. Dr. Smith, do you see the red telephone icon? To leave
You
this
still
meeting?
on it?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Ms. Zeckman, I think you're the only one left.
All right. Let me get to the right screen.
probably a mic room, you know, in that big boardroom, which is causing that feedback. It seemed like the other day, before we left, I noticed that the podium mic was on, but I couldn't figure out how to turn it off. Yeah, see if that one's on. Okay. I don't either. I can't figure out. Usually, you know, you get the feedback when you have two devices going right there close to each other. So I don't know what's causing that. I wonder if one of those Chromebooks would work better. I think, is that a laptop or a Chromebook? It is a laptop. I don't know. Unless they fuss about it, we just say it wrong. That sounds much over. You think executive's about over? I'm thinking, but it don't matter. Yeah. It's bounced up and down, so I'm ready for it. This thing is streaming live over YouTube now. Are they back on? No, they're in executive session on a private meeting on a different one. So right now I've got the streaming software set to just a black screen with text. So that's all now over YouTube. But anyway. All right, thank you. Bye. Test.
Hi, Mitch.
Hey, Ms. Linda. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good deal.
I'm gonna,
Can you guys hear me?
Yep. I can.
Great.
She gonna get some candy in there in front of her. She gonna get us some candy in the front of her. That's what y'all missing, your report on.
What's this? I'm gonna do. They took all the candy everywhere.
About ready for a couple break.
Yes, sir.
Now, am I going out of here or am I in here?
You in here?
Yeah.
You got the right thing.
Get back in.
So now we're back in.
Hey, Jack.
Yes, yes, sir.
A little bit, just a little bit catching in the tops of y'all's
We
heads.
eating up all of your candy.
Avis, you need what?
Eating all your candy.
No, Avis didn't bring it out of the house.
I'm so sorry.
Now, I knew I was in trouble when I laid down in bed last night and found a Snicker bar for my dog. So I'm good on candy right now.
Okay.
okay, do we have everybody? I'm looking around. We've got Mitch, we've got Jack, we've got Dr. Smith. Good to go.
Oh, yeah, we are.
I'll take a motion then to return to open session.
So moved.
Jack and Chip, all those in favor?
Aye.
Take a motion to amend this morning's agenda, please.
Second.
Who was, please tell me who we have?
Mitch.
And Dewar.
And Dewar. All those in favor?
Aye.
I propose I'll move for the following amendment to the agenda. These amendments are offered primarily today because of the pandemic situation we find ourselves in. The board feels it's important that we put our actions in place rather than leaving, our folks are in a lot of limbo as they are. We want to get people out of limbo and knowing which direction we're heading. So the motion I have is item 14A would be action on personnel. I think we should vote on that separately. I take a second on adding item number 14A, action on personnel.
Second.
Is that Jack?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mitch, Chip, everybody aye? I think I need official votes. Thank you. A motion on item number 14B, appointment of Pierce County School Superintendent. Linda Zeckman make the motion as for the amendment. Could I have a second?
Second. Mitch.
Mitch, thank you. Thanks for identifying yourself. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So at this time, Counselor, that takes care of our amendments, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Dr. Smith, if you would lead us through item 14A, action on personnel for today.
I make the following recommendations to the board for your approval. We accept the.
Hold just a moment. Just a moment. Got it, Avis? Thank you. Okay, proceed.
I'm going to make the following recommendations for the board for your approval to, we accept the resignation of Courtney Morgan as student council advisor at the Pierce County High School. I want to make the recommendation that we approve Pamela Baker to be the student council advisor. She will receive the full supplement of $250 for next school year to be and oversee the student council program there and receive the full supplement. Also, Kathy Paul at Blackshear Elementary School to be the intervention specialist for next school year. Brandon Carlson to be the principal at Pierce County Middle School beginning next school year. And to extend the FMLA leave benefits for Deborah Heron in the nutrition department through May the 22nd of this year, which gets us to the end of this school year. Do want to hold off until our meeting on Monday to give us a chance to look at the coaching supplement recommendation. As far as totals, I'll have that for you at our Monday's meeting on April the 13th. But the other actions I'd like to the board move on today.
Do we need to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll take that motion from Deward. Could I have a second?
Second.
Mitch? Is there any discussion on these personnel recommendations? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. At this time, I'll take a motion, please, to appoint the superintendent for Pierce County Schools.
So moved. Mitch.
Second, please.
Second, Chippy.
Thank you, Chip. What we're missing here is who is our appointment. So Mitch, would you please reiterate your motion? Who are we selecting for our
I make a
superintendent?
motion to appoint Dara Bennett to be the new superintendent.
Excellent. And that second again, Chip?
Yes, ma'am.
Seconds that motion. Thank you. Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say how proud we are. We had two excellent candidates for superintendent of our schools, both of them from within our system, who understand very well what it is to be a Pierce County Bear. And we hope that Ms. Bennett will accept our vote. Are there any other comments?
Well, I would like to comment, just, congratulations, but, we had two good candidates, and I hope everything will go well, and congratulations to Dara. Look forward
Anyone
to
else?
I'd just like to say that we're excited about her coming, and we hope that we can continue to keep excellence as a standard.
We did that, we need to make something that's, contract approved.
On the motion, that was needed to be subject to contract approval, Ms. Linda.
Yes.
Right.
Let's offer an amended agenda, Deward, let's offer an amended motion.
Okay.
If you could please state that.
With I guess that would be
with the appointment of the superintendent, that would,
Subject to,
subject to contract approval between the parties.
okay, Dewart has offered a substitute amended motion. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Chip. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Okay. Is there any other business to come before this board this morning?
Madam Chairman, with regard to, the automobile allowance, is in addition to the base salary.
Okay. If there's no other business before us, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Is that Chip?
Second.
I'll take that from Dewar, Chip and Dewar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I got to go.